I'm Jenn Frye. I'm the training director here at Democracy, North Carolina.
Yay.
I've been at the organization almost 13 years. I started in 2006 as an organizer and have held a couple different roles within the organization. But right now my main responsibility is to do political education and skills building workshops. So trainings across the state for people who identify as supporters or activists of Democracy NC, as well as other organizations or organizers who are looking for political education skills building trainings. Democracy NC has been around for 20 plus years. We've been speaking truth to power. We focus mainly on holding elected officials accountable and engaging people in the voting and political process. We think the political process is much more than voting. It's staying active year-round to make sure that communities are organizing and engaging with decision makers of all kinds to make sure they get what they need. So we've been working in communities across North Carolina since the late 1990s.
An election, 2018.
2018 is a very important election. Unfortunately, people often don't pay attention to these midterm elections. People tend to focus more on presidential elections. I think that's because a lot of the money in the media are focused on those presidential elections. But actually, the more local the election, the more important it is for people's day-to-day lives. For example, next year, 2019, we have municipal races, and we know that turnout is really low in municipal elections, but in municipal races you're actually electing your mayor, your city council, your school board. These are the people that have control over things like how much of your city's budget goes to educating kids instead of militarizing police, or how much of your county's budget, we have county officials on the ballot this year, goes towards making sure you have good health services in your county. So we really want people to vote in 2018 because we have a range of offices on the ballot. So our member of Congress is on the ballot, and we have things like school board in some counties, and soil and water commissioner, register of deeds, a lot of elections or elected officials people don't typically think about, but actually have a pretty big impact on our day-to-day lives.
And the amendments.
Yeah, and I'll talk about the amendments, but before that, I want to make sure people know that two of the most, I think one of the most powerful elected positions that's on the ballot this year is the district attorney. So these are the prosecutors, the people who represent the state in criminal court cases. They have a lot of power to decide things like, is somebody charged with a crime? If so, what kind of crime are they charged with? If they're charged with something, are they going to have to pay bail in order to get out of jail before they await trial? How long do they have to wait to go to trial? Are they offered some sort of deal, plea deal? If you plead guilty to this, you can get out quicker versus going to trial. And we know that across the country, and North Carolina is no exception, prosecutors are mostly men, mostly white. And we have huge problems with our criminal justice system and mass incarceration in this country. And if we were paying attention and trying to elect prosecutors that understood how racism interacts with our criminal justice system and how much power they have to end mass incarceration, we could actually end mass incarceration in this country. So that's on the ballot in 2018, and not a lot of people think about that. As are the judges, the district court judges and superior court judges, who again interact very much with this system. They're on the ballot and we elect them. So there's a lot of power for voters in electing those people. And even if in your county this year your DA is running unopposed, it's really important to understand that role and who's in that position so that next time you can make sure there's a competitive election in your county. So also on our ballot at the very end are 6 proposed amendments to North Carolina's Constitution. And we know that most voters do not know that amendments are going to be on their ballot. They were put there pretty last minute in a process that wasn't super transparent. We also know that the more people learn about all 6 of those amendments, the less they like them. So we've been trying to really educate voters that these amendments will be there, and also what the potential impact of the amendments will be. Because if you just go in having heard nothing about the amendments and you read the language, it sounds pretty good, because they were written to be intentionally vague and misleading. The truth is, all 6 of these amendments are a pretty bad deal for North Carolinians. They range from 2 amendments that would give our state legislature more power at the expense of other branches of government, at the expense of balance of power, which we know is one of the key things that makes our democracy function. There's an amendment to bring back an unjust law that was already struck down by the courts as being intentionally racist, the voter ID law. They're asking voters now to approve that since they were challenged in the courts and they lost. They want us to be the instruments of our own oppression and put voter ID in the state constitution. People should know that there's only one state in the entire country that has a photo ID requirement for voting in its state constitution. That's Mississippi. So the question for us is, in terms of voting rights, do we want to be more extreme in terms of voter suppression than Mississippi in North Carolina? I don't think we do. I don't think most voters would think that's the way for North Carolina to go. And then there's an amendment on the ballot that says it will reduce income taxes. That's actually not true. It's a proposed cap on income taxes at 7%. Our income taxes in North Carolina are actually currently lower than that, so it doesn't decrease taxes. And in fact, what this amendment does is lock in tax breaks that have been given over the past several years to the wealthiest North Carolinians. Because what we know is there are different kinds of taxes. There's an income tax, which is based on how much money you make, and then there are things like sales and property taxes. And we know that lower income taxes mostly benefit wealthy people. And when we lower income taxes and the state needs money to run schools, to build roads, to do all of the things that a state government does, when they're running out of money, if they can't increase income taxes, particularly on the wealthy and corporations who already pay less than their fair share in taxes, they're going to increase property taxes, sales taxes, and fees that hit middle class and working families way harder. So we're actually being asked to vote on potential future tax increases for the majority of North Carolinians. So we should vote against that amendment as well. And then there are a couple other amendments on there that are confusing and so vague that I can't really explain to you what they mean. One is called the Victims' Rights Amendment, and it claims to give victims of crimes more power in the criminal justice process, but it's very unclear what that means. And it also expands the definition of what a victim is. So it could include corporations, it could include property owners. The legislators in this case, and with the Hunting and Fishing Amendment, which simply says hunting and fishing is a right in North Carolina, which we already have, they're asking us to essentially give them a blank check to say what these amendments will actually mean after the election is over. So we don't get the details up front. They want us to vote for these amendments and then they'll fill in the details later. No one would do that. No one would buy a car and then have the car salesperson write the contract for that lease later. So we shouldn't do that with our power or with the vote. So we're recommending that people take a closer look at all of these amendments, and Democracy NC, as have many other organizations, have come out against all 6 of those amendments. It's also important to note that all five former living governors, both Republicans and Democrats, and all the former chief justices of our Supreme Court have come out against the amendments that would give the legislature more power at the expense of other branches of government. So people can learn more about all 6 of those at the website bythepeoplenc.com. Our website is democracync.org, and we also have a voting specific website for the elections, ncvoter.com. Thank you.